Wow, what a room. Quite a party this morning. Happy New Year. Hope everyone enjoyed the holidays. Welcome to the party. Welcome to 2023 and our annual Long Island Association State of the Region. The LIA is currently in its 97th year of growing Long Island's economy, advocating for Long Island's business community, and looking out for Long Island's future. It's exciting, it's exhilarating, and it's humbling to see nearly 12,000 partners in this room today, the largest audience we've ever had for this event. And partners in this room today with whom we share a vision to think outside the box, to think big, to make Long Island more affordable and economically competitive, while keeping it the best place to live, work, and raise a family. We have a great program today, and we'll hear from three leaders who are working very hard to help us achieve that collective vision. But first, let's salute our country. I'd like to introduce Ayanna Frank, a junior at Five Towns College in the Music and Theater divisions. Ayanna. Ayanna, you're welcome back anytime. That was amazing. So, at the LIA, we like to say that Long Island's future is our business, and 2023 is going to be a truly phenomenal year. We have many game changers on the horizon that will have a transformative impact on our economy and create new jobs, including a continued increase in reverse commuting and more travel options and reliability due to the Long Island Railroad's third track, which was recently completed. The LIA was a leading voice in helping form the Right Track Coalition to galvanize support for the project, which has been talked about for decades. And then next up is the imminent opening of Grand Central Madison, finally giving Long Islanders access to the east side of Manhattan via rail. These are two of the biggest transportation infrastructure projects in the nation. And hat tip to Long Island Railroad interim president and LIA board member Kathy Rinaldi, who's doing amazing things, making Long Island the center of these great national projects. Thank you, Kathy. The LIA has also been a staunch proponent of fostering a clean energy economy, and Long Island is poised to become the offshore wind capital of the country, as job-creating offshore wind projects are now coming to fruition. For example, South Fork Wind is projected to power Long Island homes by the end of this year, and other in the pipeline to serve our region. The first wind farm here on Long Island is going to be up by this year, powering homes on Long Island. That is incredible. A total of $350 million that Governor Hochul and the state legislature, many of those state senators and assembly members are here today, allocated to new economic development funds being invested in our region, some of which has already been awarded to Northwest Finance Institute, Long Island University, Farmingdale State College, and Stony Brook University with Brookhaven National Lab. And we'll continue to push forward on projects big and small to spur growth here, such as modernizing Belmont Racetrack, which is adjacent to the Islanders' home and its new state-of-the-art UBS Arena, a world-class sports and entertainment destination, and pursuing the Midway project that would create economic win-win with our crown jewel at Long Island MacArthur Airport, realizing its full potential with better connectivity to the Long Island Railroad Ronkonkoma train station, a first-class convention center, and a bustling life sciences industry there. And we'll continue to work on creating more transit-oriented developments that bring together more affordable apartments, more accessible Long Island Railroad options, and cool places to go drinking. And we also need to ensure supporting. And we also need to ensure that Long Island gets an equitable share of funding and attention from all levels of government. We have sent much more to DC and Albany every year than we get back, and thankfully we have a Senate Majority Leader from New York, so that's starting to change, and we're very fortunate for that. And so we have some existential crises that we need to turn into economic development opportunities to address challenges like our high cost of living. By developing more affordable housing options, expanding our commercial tax base by cultivating our businesses here, and retaining young professionals to keep Long Island vibrant and sustainable. These are key priorities for the Long Island Association, as are expanding options for safe, affordable, and equitable childcare, and cultivating our high-tech research corridor. King Coulter, there you go, perfect. If you look at the slides, the screens by you, in 2022, the LIA introduced the new Small Business Support Program, launched a redesigned website, enhanced our digital communications and social media for our members, and highlighted the economic imperative of fostering a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive business community and corporate culture to spur growth and keep our region thriving. This included collaborating more and holding quarterly full membership meetings with the Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce, led by Phil Andrews, and the Long Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, led by Louis Vasquez, both LIA board members. And we continue to support and work closely with your community's local Chamber of Commerce, which were pivotal in supporting our downtowns and other businesses to make it through COVID, and we're going to continue to support them today. I want to thank the Summit Chamber Alliance and the National Council of Chambers and all the chambers under your umbrellas for all the work you've done on behalf of our resilient but still recovering small business community. So going back to the slide, you can put that back up on the screen. When we launched our small business program, we had the opportunity to extend membership to more than 100 new businesses with 10 or fewer employees. And today we have raffle baskets curated by several of them. You can see the companies on the screen. These are locally owned businesses with Long Island employees, your neighbors, your family, your friends. And as members, the LIA is laser focused on expanding your visibility, enhancing your brand, and will have giving you greater opportunity to reach potential new customers with your amazing products and services. So as you leave today, please check out the baskets on the way out the door. And what happens on the federal, state, and local levels impact us here on Long Island, and that's why that's why the LIA will continue to play its role as a primary advocate for our region's economic advancement and a successful business community. Today, we have the opportunity to hear from the first U.S. Senate Majority Leader from New York and my former boss, Senator Chuck Schumer. After Chuck, we'll hear from Steve Ballone in his capacity as county executive for the very last time. Steve's term limited, or else I'm sure he would be reelected again. But I have a feeling this won't be the last time he addresses a room of business leaders on Long Island in some other capacity. His voice is a very important one, and we're going to continue to listen to it going forward. I also want to acknowledge our board of directors at the LA and all of our members, and particularly on our board, Larry Waldman, our chairman. An organization is only as strong as its board, as its members. These folks give their energy and support to the LIA to achieve our shared mission here. They care about our region. They care about the business community. And Larry in particular has been a wonderful mentor and friend to me, and really committed to making Long Island the best place it can be. And I also want to acknowledge our staff at the LIA. We're a small shop. It might seem like we're a big shop, but there's only 7 of us. And the 6 folks that I work with, my colleagues, work very, very hard. That's who put together this event today. I want to acknowledge Stacy Sykes, David Suzo, and Nina Zotter, and Kristen Kelly, and especially acknowledge our CFO, Michelle Byrne, and our Director of HR Events, Tiffany Hansen. We can thank them for everything they did. Great team. Best team on Long Island. We're very blessed that they're working on behalf of our region. I'd also like to acknowledge all the elected officials who have joined us today. I'd love to mention every single person here individually, but you gotta get out of here by 10, so I'm not gonna do that. But as a compromise, I did put your names on screens, so that way everyone can see who's here with us today. So, state delegation, state senators, state assembly members, Nassau County legislators, Suffolk County legislators. I will acknowledge the 2 presiding officers, Richard Nicolello from Nassau and Kevin McCaffrey from Suffolk, as well as town supervisors that are here today. I see Major Carpenter and Joe Salvatino right in front of me, 2 of my favorite people, as well as municipal officials and school board representatives. I've read and talked more about school board elections than ever in my life, given the politics of the time. So we should really give a hand to those school board elected officials who give their time for no pay just because they love their community. And I do want to especially recognize 2 people who've done so much for Long Island. First up is Duke Gibbs. He is the director at Brookhaven National Laboratory in LIA for years. He did that well in January. So on behalf of all of us, dude, I don't know where you are, we want to thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to seeing whatever Duke 2.0 will entail. So thanks for everything, Duke. And the second person I want to give a shout out to is the mayor of Long Island, and my only other boss besides Senator Schumer, my big brother Kevin Law, who's also the chair of the Ohio State Development. I've been very blessed to have only two bosses in my professional career. One was Chuck and one was Kevin. And I learned so much from Kevin. He's a close friend. He really is like my big brother. I can tell you without hyperbole, there is no person that has done more or cares more, done more for Long Island or cares more about Long Island than Kevin. He did an incredible job leading this organization, making it relevant again, making it influential again, bringing hundreds of millions of dollars in federal, state resources, leveraging private dollars with that. He was a great leader at the LIA, big shoes to fill, but also just a good friend of mine. And thanks, Kevin, for everything. And today would not be possible without our sponsors. These businesses not just support today's event, but they're passionate about helping our community. They truly care about keeping Long Island the special place it is for future generations, and we're so grateful for their time and dedication to the LIA. Our Lighthouse official event sponsors are 2 of Long Island's best companies. They're fully committed to investing here. They're creating jobs. They're really model businesses. They're becoming, if they're not already, iconic Long Island businesses. I want to thank Beth Page Fellow Credit Union, Linda Armin's here, and Wayne Rosseo for our board. The Hodgman Group is led by Billy Hodgman, who's also on our board. They're doing some incredible things working with Orsted and Eversource and Offshore Wind. We have our Beacon sponsors, Catholic Health, Hello Taiwan by Casual Home Worldwide, North Point Development, M&T Bank, Ruskin Moscow Falta Check, Empire Government Strategies, and the SAMS. And then finally, our Navigator sponsors, Attentive Energy, Capital One, Farrell Fritz, KPMG, Long Island Cares, Meltzer Lippy, a lot of sponsors, Nassau County IDA, National Grid, Optimum, PSEG Long Island, Summit Health, City MD, and finally Webster Bank. See all the banners on the screens. Thank you so much. Before I introduce Chuck, I will take a moment of personal privilege as president to acknowledge my high school AP Government and Politics teacher who's at my table, and his wife Phyllis, Mr. Kurt Lader, who moved for high school, class of 2000. It's very hard to call your teachers by their first name when you become an adult. So Mr. Lader, Kurt Lader and his wife Phyllis, I also learned a lot from him. I really started developing my love for government and politics in Mr. Lader. Kurt's class. And we've stayed in touch through the years. He's a wonderful educator. I'm so happy. I feel so lucky that I get to have him and his wife here for this event today. And Mr. Lake, thank you for everything you've done, and I really appreciate it. I'm happy to see you. Okay, now on to the man we all wait to hear from. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has been a tireless advocate for New York State and for Long Island. As I'm sure every single person in this room knows, he visits all 62 counties every year, even as the Majority Leader. He's delivered billions of dollars in federal aid to our state, and as Majority Leader, he's at the center of every major federal policy decision. And we all know, again, I don't care what your politics are, he fights so hard for us here in Long Island and for New York. And I know this not just from watching him on Sunday press conferences on TV or reading about him in Newsday, but from one of my earliest professional experience as the Long Island director in this Long Island office. I won't go into too many details today, but trust me when I say it prepared me for anything that would come my way. I can personally attest to how hard a worker he is. He's a force of nature. Not that he has anything else going on, but he still goes to high school and college graduations. My first day, I think we did 9 together. That was really stressful. And one of the best things about Chuck really is that I guarantee you, you go back to a high school in Massapequa or a Sachel High School or somewhere in Babylon and remember the principal's name, the custodian's name. He remembers everybody. He cares about everybody. He looks you in the eye. He makes them feel like they're the only person in the room. Chuck was born and raised in Brooklyn, started his career in the New York State Assembly right after graduating Harvard Law School. He was elected to Congress in 1980 at the age of 29, and the rest, as they say, is history. On January 20th, 2021, Chuck Schumer became the Majority Leader of the United States Senate. He's the first New Yorker and the first Jewish person to serve as Majority Leader. We can't wait to hear more about all of the recent funding and successes he had for Long Island. There's just a couple of things going on in D.C. these days if you turn on the news. So, ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Senate Majority Leader, my old boss, Chuck Schumer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much to the great Ben Cohen, who worked just as hard for me as I worked, and he did an amazing job. And I want to thank him when he worked as my Long Island Regional Director. Now, when I walked in this morning, people stopped me. And they said, with all the trouble going on in Washington, what are you doing here? I reminded them that the Senate is different than the House. It took one vote, unanimous vote, to elect me Majority Leader. I also want to thank Stacey Sykes, who is also part of my dynamic Long Island team with Matt, and she is doing a great job as LIA Vice President. And also, a moment to give a shout out. Our Schumer staff on Long Island, it's not that large, but it's sort of the breeder reactor of creating people who go on and do other great things for Long Island. Matt is one of them. Chris Hahn, who works for PSEG. Stroller, the head of ADLI. Debbie Tintorello, leader at Hofstra. Ryan Stanton, who's head of the Long Island Federation of Labor. And Kirsten Walsh, who does so much for so many Long Island businesses. So I had a great team, but one of the things I'm proud of, they stayed loyal to Long Island, and they keep doing great things for Long Island long after they leave my employ. And finally, there are a lot of elected officials here. I saw some, and I want to acknowledge, of course, our great county executive, Steve Ballone. On the way out, I saw Bruce Blakeman. He said, "You're doing a great job." I said, "Let's get that on video." He said he'd be happy to do that. John Durso from the Long Island Federation of Labor. A dear friend who I call Angie Baby. Angie Carpenter of Islip. Someone I miss, and I think everyone misses in the United States Congress. Pete King. Pete, can you go back there and spread them out? And last but not least, I saw the indefatigable Don Clavin. He handed me this. I just got a $5 million earmark to help with the nitrogen mitigation, and I've been dealing with the problems, with the Bay Park sewer plant. And here's what it says: Chuck Schumer's purest water anywhere. So a toast to Don and all the other. Okay, so let me just say this. I'm so proud, so honored that the people of New York have elected me to another term to keep me doing what I love. I am the first New Yorker ever to be elected to 5 terms in the United States Senate. And that is both humbling, awe-inspiring, and it energizes me to keep going and deliver more and more and more. New York is in my bones, as you know. I just love this place, every corner of it. I like to say that before I Love New York became our state motto, it was my credo. I love nothing more than visiting every corner of the state. As Matt mentioned, I still visit every county every year. From the farms in Genesee County to the green markets in Union Square, from the Bethpage Air Show at Jones Beach to Stony Brook Commencement. And I learn. Everywhere I go, I learn. I talk to people. I talk to anyone I see. And I hear about their difficulties, their dreams. And that makes me do my job better. People say, "I'm Johnny, there's so much to do. Why are you always running around the state?" And it's not only because I enjoy it, I do, but I learn. My good friend McCaffrey is here, and he has 2 hats. Of course, he's the leader of the Suffolk County Legislature, but he's also the head of Teamsters. And I met a fellow named Kelly through him, who had put money into his pension every 2 weeks. But because of bad investments in the pension, he wasn't going to get 600,000 New Yorkers, about 100,000 people here on Long Island in the multi-employer pension. We're going to have their pensions dramatically cut through no fault of their own. Talking to Kelly, meeting him with some of his fellow Teamsters over the truck facility, I said, "We got to do something about this." And we restored the money, took billions of dollars for 600,000 New Yorkers, and now they get their full pensions. But it might not have happened. It might not have happened if I hadn't seen Jim and Mr. Kelly and everybody else there. So I'm going to keep going around the state. I'm going to start. I started yesterday on the 62 counties for 2023. Okay. Now, during the last 2 years, as you know, the Senate achieved one of the most productive legislative sessions in decades. The only debate was it the greatest in 50 years since the Great Society, or 100 years the New Deal. And we had major accomplishments. I'll touch on them. I'm not going to elaborate on them, but the American Rescue Plan pulled New York and our nation out of the brink of COVID. Thousands of Americans, hundreds of Long Islanders were dying. And throughout COVID relief, we delivered $2 billion to Long Island's county, town, village, and city governments. Our then governor wanted all the money to go to the state. And I heard from local officials, "We'll never see it." Frankly, I heard it particularly from Republican elected officials. And so I said, "We'll give half the money to the state and make them whole. Or we'll give half the money to the localities." And our counties, our towns, our villages here on Long Island got over $2 billion that helped them through those difficult times. We provided $13 billion to Long Island hospitals, which were all hurting with COVID. They couldn't do their normal types of hospital activities, and they were ready to go broke. They're not going broke. People have stayed employed because of the money we delivered. And our small businesses, as you know, my dad, I'll talk about him a little later, he's still with me, he passed away a year ago, was an exterminator, had a tough little business. My sister once sent him a Father's Day card that said, "Dad, we're the only family that associates the smell of DDT with love." Because he'd come home reeking of the chemicals, but I know what small businesses go through. And so I made sure that the PPP program got out to everybody, not just to for-profit businesses, although they did they got what they needed, but to nonprofits. About a quarter of our economy on Long Island is nonprofit, and frankly to our religious organizations, because they needed help as well. And Catholic charities, Lots of our parishes and dioceses and everything else got the help they needed. We got $15 billion for the MTA. It would have gone under. No one was riding the trains, LIA or the subways. So we did all this. And then in the subsequent bills, we got even more money. Long Island got, close to $100 billion all told through the years I've been majority leader. Here's one of the things I'm proud of stuff. Here's one of the things I'm proud of. Senator Moynihan, as you know, was my mentor. And he would always decry the fact that New York is what he called a donor state. We always sent more money back to Washington than we got back. In the last 2 years, for the first time ever, New York is not a donor state. We get more money back than we sent in. Senator Moynihan is smiling. So he was one wonderful man. I'm not supposed to do my wedding invitation, it's not big. But in any case, we had 2 years, and every time, there are two reasons New York gets the money back. Some I fight for programs nationally, but that particularly benefit New York. Mass transit is a typical example. Even though it's a national issue, when you get the money, New York gets about a third. But the second thing I try to do is make sure the formulas benefit New York. So for instance, the money for our hospitals, I made sure that our New York hospitals got particularly benefit given their unique configuration in the country. So those have been great, but let's look to the future. We've had successful 2 years, but I always think at the end of my term, what are priorities? And there are a bunch, but I want to talk about 3 priorities that I have for Long Island in the next 2 years. They are improving our transportation infrastructure, ensuring clean air, safe water, healthy environment, and growing Long Island's high-tech businesses, whether they be in physics or healthcare or science in general. So let me touch on each of those. First, improving transportation infrastructure. We have a ton of money now. The bipartisan infrastructure bill, and by the way, of the 7 big bills, when we say we had a big successful 2 years in the Senate, under my leadership we did 7 big bills. Six were bipartisan. Democratic and Republican votes. I always try to do these things in a bipartisan way whenever I can. And one of them was the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It's a once-in-generation investment for our roads and our bridges and our highways and broadband. So part of my job was to get that passed. But the second part of my job is to work with the bureaucracies and make sure New York gets as much of that money as we can. We will get a lot. We depend on our infrastructure, from good roads to the digital infrastructure that connects workers and customers and entrepreneurs. In the bipartisan bill, and now the money will be allocated, we're going to fight hard for money for Long Island, was $11.6 for federal highways, $2 billion for bridge replacement and repairs, $289 million allocated just for New York for walking and biking and hiking infrastructure. And that's going to be really, really helpful out here because we have such a beautiful environment that people can board. $10 billion went directly to the MTA, not the whole country, just the MTA for commuter rail, and we put in a lot of money for capital projects. So big projects can finally get done. We have the Jamaica Crawl. Anyone who commutes through Jamaica Station knows what I'm talking about. Well, there's a good plan to change that and make it much easier for people to use Jamaica Station and then go on to wherever they go after that. And there's going to be money for that. There's $30 billion for improvements along the Amtrak's Northeast Corridor, including the Gateway Tunnel project that indirectly affects Long Island. That's about the tunnels under the Hudson. It'll be the biggest public works project in the country. I would tell one of my mentors, Tip O'Neill, it's even bigger than the Big Dig. And we've just gotten the first big allocation for that this week. It's going to employ, those of you from the labor movement, it's going to employ tens of thousands of workers, all in union jobs. Now, I just brokered another part of this deal between Amtrak and MTA. They were fighting with each other, but since we sent the funding to both of them, it's sort of easy to put them together. For repair on the East River tunnels. Everyone's heard about Gateway, which are the tunnels under the Hudson, but there's a mirror image which directly affects Long Island. The East River tunnels, by which the Long Island Railroad goes into Manhattan, which hundreds of thousands of people use each year, are the same type of damage because of Sandy, because the soil water eroded the basic bedways, happened to these East River tunnels, and nobody wanted to move forward on it. It's now going to be part of that $30 billion we're getting. If these tunnels were to be unusable, the economy of New York region and the whole Northeast, but particularly Long Island, would go into a tailspin. So, here are some of the specifics on the bridge money that I mentioned. There are bridges like the Smith Point Bridge in Shirley, the Lincoln Avenue Bridge in Bohemia, the Sunrise Highway Bridge over the North Road in Hampton Bays. We need to make sure that Oakdale Merge gets reconfigured. We need to make sure that there's improved accessibility at Long Island Railroad stations like Massapequa Park and Lindenhurst. So there's lots to do there. We want to make sure MacArthur Airport, under Angie's leadership, we just got $14 million in BIF funding for MacArthur to be energy efficient and have safety system upgrades, but there's going to be more to come. Working with Steve, your great county executive in Suffolk County, we got $5 million for the commuter parking near the Ronkonkoma Hub. We really want to see the Ronkonkoma Hub continue to be a center, not only for transit, but for jobs, move forward. And we even got the Lawrence Avenue, the derelict buildings at Lawrence Avenue, money to undo them so the Long Island and Port Jefferson branch can work. So that's a good thing as well. So there's a lot to do in transportation. There's a lot of money to do it. In the next 2 years, my job is to make sure that that money that's now in the coffers of the federal DOT comes to Long Island, and you can be sure I'll be doing that in every way that I can. The second area is clean air. Second area for these next 2 years is ensuring clean air, safe water, and a healthy environment. This is another major priority. We have one of the most beautiful environments, not only in America, but in the world. That's why people came to live here originally. And we have to ensure our environment. We have to ensure clean air and safe drinking water. We've all seen that the poisoned flows of nitrogen from unsewered homes and cesspools and septic tanks flows into our waterways and chokes marine life, causes these toxic algae blooms, which make it hard. Of course, it ruins shellfishing, but it makes it harder to swim, to recreate, even to boat. And they're all over. They're on the North Shore in the Long Island Sound. They're on the South Shore in Great South Bay. So what we have to do is do something about it. So one of the things we've gotten a lot of money for in these bills is money to finally provide real sewage systems to the large parts, particularly in Suffolk County, of places that don't have them. I've been working with Steve on this, and we're dealing with those. We're also dealing with we have our great aquifer, which provides us clean, beautiful drinking water. But there's contamination, as you know, in Grumman, in Calverton, at Gabreski. We've had some major successes into all of these things. We got over $60 million in the ARP for Suffolk County for sewer expansion in Babylon, Brookhaven, and Huntington. As part of BIF, we have $106 million ready to be invested to preserve and protect Long Island Sound. We have a few areas in Nassau County that still have lead pipes that are very, very bad for the kids who drink the water. We got $2.6 billion for New York, just for New York. A lot of that's going to go to Long Island to clean up those lead pipes. And there's $500 million for our drinking and water fund. We just took $18 million out of that for system upgrades for Riverhead, Calverton, Riverside, Holbrook, and North Belport. as well as sewer upgrades for Hempstead, Glen Cove, and Long Beach as well. So we're making sure our water stays clean, and of course all of this provides good jobs. We also were able, with the sewers, to get a victory from the Department of Agriculture and the IRS, working with Steve and some of the other folks. And what we did was, we got them to reverse their position that tax residents who participated in the septic improvement program. Suffolk County put together under Steve's leadership this great program where you could get federal dollars to help upgrade your waters if you had a sewage septic tank or something else. And then they taxed you on it. Was that stupid? And we got them to reverse that position, have go first to the IRS. And so now lots more people will be able to use that program. And of course, one of the biggest things we did in the IRA bill was money for offshore wind. And as mentioned, Long Island is going to be the capital for offshore wind, not just in New York, but in our country. We have the most people and the most water and the most wind. This is going to create a huge amount of jobs. It's going to create new companies that are building and installing this stuff. It's going to be one of the great, this is the kind of new frontier jobs that will grow in the future. So when people hear about it, even the kids in the high schools, Jim, Kurt, I had the same thing. I had Mrs. Wagner, and she inspired me, and she'd always say, call me Joan, and I could never do that. So I know what you mean. But in any case, the kids will be inspired to get training and jobs, and there's billions of dollars to train new people. We're going to need many more workers to install all of this. And we have money to do that in these federal bills. The FIMP project, which I've done before, in the next 2 years, we have to oversee that it continues. The beauty of the Fire Island Inlet to Montauk Point program is such. This place, the whole barrier island would have been wiped out with the weather changes if we hadn't done anything. But now we have all this money for FIMP. Again, it's there. We've got to make sure it got done. And I made sure it was 100% federally funded. So towns like Hempstead and Brookhaven and everybody else wouldn't have had to pay 25%. They couldn't afford it. And so we've gotten that back. But to encourage the growth of new high-tech energy, solar panels, but particularly for this on Long Island, wind is one of the greatest parts of our future in terms of jobs, in terms of growth, but also in terms of greener, cleaner, but cheaper and more reliable power as well. Once we have these windmills installed, the prices are going to go up and down the way we have suffered from in the last few years and throughout our history. So it's a great, great thing in a lot of different ways. Jobs, environment, and lower costs for homeowners. So it's a great thing, and we're going to push that. So the third area I want to focus on, and the last one, is the Long Island high-tech healthcare and science research centers. We just have great places here on Long Island, whether it be Cold Spring Harbor, or Hofstra, or our great hospital system, or Brookhaven, or Stony Brook, that do the most cutting-edge research in the world. So I have encouraged that. And we've been more successful than we've been in a very, very long time. 9 million people in the country will be employed in these new cutting-edge industries. And Long Island is the perfect place to benefit from all kinds of things like this. We will see an upswing in the green industrial revolution, as I mentioned, where clean power runs factories, operated by newly hired and highly paid workers. The clean hydrogen production tax credit is going to keep our companies, bring down their costs. We got $25 million now in federal funding for the South Brook Marine Terminal and $48 million for the Arthur Kill Terminal, which are assembly sites for the solar panels, for the wind panels that we want to see installed, and they're going to be manufactured here in New York with real benefits to our economy. That's a great thing, but it's going to create major, major growth in our economy, the energy sector, the new energy sector. And we want to add as many jobs as we can there. But there's also a lot of the cutting edge research in the physical and medical sciences that we do as well. And the CHIPS and Science Act, which I spearheaded, is the largest down payment in a long time that has been one thing that set America apart for centuries: science and manufacturing. When we invested in NIH, we created the greatest pharmaceutical industry in the world. Lots of benefits here on Long Island, lots of companies. When we invested in NSF, this is research that the federal government does because it's pure research. There's no immediate profit, so private companies can't and won't do it. We created the greatest chips and tech industry in the world. We've got to keep those investments up. We fell way behind to China. Under the CHIPS and Science Act, we have the record investment in NSF and a record investment in building high-end semiconductor chips and many other things here. And there's got to be a lot of research to do it. And Long Island can be a center of chip-related research and production. First, because the companies are already part of our supply chain. But second, because places like Brookhaven and Stony Brook have such great, they're cutting edge in the world. And so we're playing on that to grow. So I just got $10 million to build out Stony Brook's LINCATS. That stands for Long Island Network of Clinical and Translational Science. And the overall purpose is to foster collaboration with local businesses and research to make sure that medical and healthcare solutions can come to market more easily. So it's profit-making, but at the same time providing better healthcare and more jobs. Lots of new companies will come out of that. Then there's the Center for Quantum Information Science right here at Brookhaven. We got the Department of Energy and made it us. It was a fight between us and Virginia. This was under the Trump administration, but the people in the Department of Energy saw, when I brought them here, that New York was the right place, and Stony Brook was the right place, and we got it. This is going to do, the quantum science is going to throw off everything in terms of new types of batteries and storage, new types of AI, new types of just about everything. And it's all being done here. And when we invest and they do the research here at Stony Brook or at Brookhaven, Dune Gibbs, of course, was heavily involved in this. He's the only person I ever met whose first name was Dune. So I miss him and his name when he leaves. But in any case, that's going to create not only new construction jobs, but also throw off lots of new companies. And then, and this got a little attention, but it should get more. There's something called the electron-ion collider. It's the most advanced, what we used to call atom smasher. They don't call it that anymore. Cyclotron, I don't know what they call it. In the world. It's coming here. It's being built. We got it done. Here on Long Island. Not only does that create construction jobs, but the research that's going to do is going to be cutting edge. So just like Stanford, its research threw off the previous generation of tech jobs and created Silicon Valley, this kind of research and investment is going to throw off new science jobs. Long Island has the perfect ecosystem to do this in terms of the quality of our schools, both K through 12 and colleges and higher education. In terms of our workforce, in terms of the density of population, in terms of its nearness to the existence of great universities. So it's going to happen. And the same thing can happen in the medical sciences with places like Oxford, like our hospital system led by Northwood, like Stony Brook, and so many of our great places there. So those are the three focuses: transportation, clean energy, making sure our water is clean and good, and new jobs coming from all the new science and high-tech investments that the country is making. And those are our focus. That's going to be my focus for the next few years. Now, Matt mentioned housing. We're going to have to do something on that too. And our hope, we did raise the cap on the low-income housing tax credit to 4%. We'd like to get it higher next year. And that's the kind of thing that allows the private sector to build a lot more housing, a lot more cheaply. So, that's some of the stuff we're doing on Long Island. One other thing I'd like to mention, we work really well. I have lots of things that we also got done this year. The first gun safety laws in 30 years, helping our veterans. This started on Long Island. Another thing that started on Long Island, the PACT Act. So many of our veterans were breathing in from the burn pits, these toxins. Out in Northport, there was a whole group of veterans who got involved in this, and we passed the PACT Act. The VA wasn't going to treat them. They died. It was like our firefighters, really, by the way. A lot of people live here who are suffering because they rushed to the towers after 9/11. We got another $1 billion. We got more to go, but that's going to now last on its own to 2027. Obviously, the Respect for Marriage Act, LGBTQ marriage, was earned. It was an amazing 2 years that I'm proud of. But there's a lot more to do, and I'll conclude by telling you a little story about my dad. He's always with me. He passed away a year ago. And so this is my dad's story, and you'll see why I'm bringing it up. So, well, I'll go a little further back. I told the beginning of this story to some of you who were at the executive board last year, but bear with me. So my great-grandfather, this is my family story. My great-grandfather was a famous rabbi in actually the Western Ukraine, in a place called Chorkiv. And he believed devoutly in the Bible. He was a religious man. The first commandment of God to man in the Bible is what God told Adam and Eve: be fruitful and multiply. So he had 18 children, all with one wife. They had those arranged marriages, you know, when they were 14. That was that. That's what they did. Anyway, but the Jews in Eastern Europe, as you know, were very poor because, you know, they couldn't be things. They couldn't be a farmer. They couldn't be a tradesman. They couldn't set up a business. And so all they did was study. So they had no money. And the three youngest were sent to America. That's my grandpa. I'll get to that in a minute. By the way, when I told this story to my Democratic caucus, Ivan Dorgan, a droll Norwegian senator then from North Dakota, said, he had 18 kids? I said, yeah. He said he wasn't just studying. In any case, just to digress for a minute, it just shows you some of my beliefs. So the 15 stayed there. The great rabbi, my great-grandfather, died. My great-grandmother was left. The Nazis come into Western Ukraine in 1941, and they asked all the Jews in this town, Chorkiv, to gather in the town square. 800 of them. It was a town of about 25,000. And then they asked my grandmother to gather her greater family on her porch. She was, you know, pretty much the most well-known woman in the Jewish community there. And so 33 people gathered, from 85 years old to 3 months, and the Nazis said, you're coming with us. She said, we're not moving. She left everyone there. And if you want to know why I have such a strong belief for Israel, I tell those who say, why are you not? I said, I would have had a lot more uncles and aunts, cousins, and nieces and nephews and siblings. Okay, but now get to the rest of the story. So my father was one of the three youngest, and he was sent to America in 1892. He was supposed to be raised by an uncle, but the uncle was a ne'er-do-well. So my grandpa was a street urchin. He slept in doorways, he stole apples from the push carts, he never went to school, had to teach himself to read and write when he was a young adult. But when he was 14, it was pouring rain, and he sees all these people going into this building. They're not charging admission, so he says, I'll go and I'll get dry. What's the building? It was the Labor Temple, built by the unions on the Lower East Side to teach the Irish and German and Italian and Jewish and Polish immigrants about this new thing, the union. And it was their annual meeting, and they had three of the greatest orators of their day, Eugene V. Debs and Will and Ariel Durant. It was 6 hours. He stayed there the whole time, and he just got taken with this, and he became a union guy. He ends up in Utica, New York. He was one of the founders, not one of the top 3, but one of the top 50 founders of the paper workers union. He worked in the paper workers union. My dad is a patriot. He goes to high school up in Utica, and he enlists right after prologue. They give him a test. He scores really high. So they give him top secret clearance, and they teach him radar. Radar, in the early days, was just being perfected. The British were ahead of us. So basically, you have to invest in science. Anyway, and his main mission was to see airplanes, of course. But the Army gave it a second, the Army Air Force, which they called it, they gave it a second mission. And that was to see mountains, because the Allies were flying over the Himalaya mountains to supply Chiang Kai-shek, who had been pushed inland by the Japanese. And the Japanese Zeros would chase the planes and they'd crash into the mountains, which were enshrouded in clouds. They couldn't even see them. It was one of the most perilous missions in the war. My dad, in 20 missions, helped perfect radar, saved lives, shot at all the time by Japanese Zeros, never hit. In fact, the only injury he got a parasite in the airfields in Burma, lost his hair. When I became a congressman, he calls me up, he says, "Now you're a congressman, can I get my Purple Heart?" I said, "It's not for parasites, Dad." But in any case, so the war ends. Grandpa has lost his job as a union organizer. The paper comes up there in Utica and buys a little exterminating business in Brooklyn. But Grandpa's not a businessman. He's a nice guy. He's an idealist, you know. And so he goes into people's houses and exterminates, and he says, "You shouldn't have rats, you shouldn't have roaches, you see the poor, pay me when you can." I'll tell our union friends, I think I told you this. He told the 3 workers in the business he bought how to form a union and ask him for more money. So my dad gets back, the family's basically starving. He's the oldest of all the kids. He has to work in this junky little business for 45 years. He hated it. But like Tom Brokaw's Greatest Generation, he never complained. You never even heard him utter words of resentment against people who might have been given a better break than him. Because if a bright guy, he could have done something, could have gone to college, but he never could. Okay, so now he passed away, he's gone. I lost him about a year ago. For those of you who have lost parents you're close to, you probably understand this. He's still with me. He's still here, I can talk to him. And he taught me 2 values that have shaped my life. First, always help people who need help. That's a noble thing to do. That's what our Judeo-Christian teachings tell us. And second, he would say, if you're doing something that you think is important, look in your heart, make sure it's the right thing. If it is, persist and persist and persist. If you don't give up, God will reward you and you will achieve those goals. That's shaped my life. And I will continue to persist and persist and persist to make Long Island an even better place to live.
Thank you, Leader Schumann. Thanks, Chuck, for being here. That was great. Just real quickly before we turn it over to Steve Malone, I forgot to mention one more Navigator sponsor for Chelly, Dig, and Tirada. Thank you for your support. And quickly go through the free raffle winners, because I think it'll be chaos down there. Everyone's trying to figure it out down there. So again, the winners of the free raffle baskets, your business cards are attached to the baskets. You can see on the screen the companies. If I mispronounce your name, forgive me. The Live Natural LLC basket goes to Rosemary Morrow Knies from Optimum. The High Five basket goes to Virginia Boyce from Cone Resnick. Summit Safety and Efficiency basket goes to Catherine Montiel from Miller Montiel and Strub. Habit Systems basket goes to Clifford Steinberg, Nassau Boces. The Trellis basket goes to Catherine Romano, New York State School Boards Association. Carlisle Sales and Marketing basket goes to Maureen Early from Covanta. Long Island Ducks basket goes to Gustavo Buitrago from Flushing Bank. 3 more. Adventureland basket goes to Jay Mulholland from CPI Arrow. Castle Interactive goes to Dawn Nolan from the Viscardi Center. And finally, the Trio Hardware basket goes to Jessica Rosati from Long Island Cares. So those are the basket winners. You can go downstairs and pick baskets. Thanks again to small businesses who participated. So Steve belongs no stranger to the LIA. He's spoken to us every year since he's been county executive. He's the 8th county executive in Suffolk's history, previously serving as Babylon Town Supervisor from 2001 to 2011. He's focused his efforts on saving taxpayer dollars through government reform, boosting economic development to create local and lasting Suffolk County jobs, improving Long Island's water quality to protect our region's water supply, enhancing Suffolk County residents' quality of life by improving public safety, investing in our parks and roads. And he gets really excited about sewers. So if you want to talk about sewers, talk to Steve. He's also, I always say this about Steve, I think he's certainly a big picture guy, a big vision guy. And one of those parts of his vision was connect Long Island to have an upgraded rapid transportation system to connect universities, research centers, downtowns, and parks. And he's he's championed transformative economic development projects, including the Ronkonkoma Hub and Midway Crossing. He's an Army veteran, he's a marathon runner, he's probably got a lot of other cool fun facts about him, but maybe he'll share with us. This is the last time he's going to be speaking here in his capacity as Suffolk County Executive because of term limits. But like I said, he cares deeply about Long Island. I'm very confident this will be the last time he'll be addressing us in this room. So everyone, County Executive Steve Malone.
Matt, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm going to limit the fun facts and get right into the heart of things, especially when you know that they're handing out the gift baskets at this point. You know we got to move things along. I'm very honored to be here. First of all, let's give a round of applause to Matt Cohen. He's doing an outstanding job leading the Long Island Association. To my good friend, his predecessor, and one of the great leaders in our region, our state, Kevin Watt. Thank you very much for all that you do, Kevin. To the Chairman Walton, all the members of the board, thank you for all that you do. To all my elected colleagues, thank you for your service, particularly my colleagues in Suffolk County, Kevin McCaffrey, the presiding officer, Jason Richburg, minority leader, all the members of the legislature, thank you for your partnership. And thank you to the members of my team that are here, led by our Chief Deputy County Executive, Lisa Black, who does an amazing job. Vanessa Bear-Sweeter, John Kagan, Peter Scully. And we say, I know Senator is leaving right now, but I just want to say a word. He was giving this speech, and literally there were about 10 game-changing, transformative things for our region and for this state that he talked about and just sort of skipped through very quickly. For Long Island, there is not, I'm going to talk very briefly about opportunity in a couple of specific areas, but when you talk about the opportunity that we have on Long Island, one of the biggest reasons for that is because we're in this period where we have this individual leading the United States Senate, who has been a fighter and champion for New York his entire life. Literally, for Long Island, in our time of crisis during COVID, he delivered hundreds of millions of dollars to municipalities everywhere to keep government going. You talked about the FIMP project, Fire Island Montauk Point, coastal resilience, protecting us from storms like Sandy. That project has been on the books since 1960. It is funded now more than $1 billion because of Senator Schumer. The electron ion collider. That will put Long Island, continue to have us on the leading edge of science for decades to come. And by the way, Senator Adam Smasher is a much better name than electron ion collider. I agree with you. So let's give him another round of applause. Our great senator. So, look, you've heard many exciting things happening on Long Island. We're at the leading edge in our nation for offshore wind energy. We are leading, and Suffolk County has led on the issue, one of the most important issues that we've had to deal with, one of the most tragic, opioid addiction. Suffolk County helped lead the nation in holding those accountable, responsible. In the coming days, we're going to be releasing awards to help fight the opioid addiction scourge. I want to thank people who've been on the front lines of that fight, people like Jeff Reynolds, who's here, and others. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to thank Kathy Jones for their work. Thank you for Shaughnessy. Public safety, always incredibly important. Once again, Suffolk County has reduced violent crime to historic low levels. I want to thank all the men and women of law enforcement. Let's give them a round of applause for what they do. The county's finances. We inherited a financial crisis, the greatest in the county's history. We now have one of the most secure finances in the history of the county. That is because of a lot of hard work and tough decisions by my colleagues. But that is great news for the county, and it's reflecting the fact that we just got a bond rating upgrade to an A+ rating. So there are many great things that are happening, but I want to focus just on two things specifically that I think represent two of the most important opportunities in our region: water quality and economic development. Water quality is one of the defining issues of our time. Will we do what is necessary now to reverse the decades of decline that we have seen in our water quality due to the nitrogen pollution that we have been systematically depositing into our lakes and rivers, our streams, and our bays? We have a moral obligation to our kids and our grandkids to fix this problem. And on a practical level, we have a responsibility as leaders to recognize that restoring water quality is essential to building a sustainable, prosperous future for this region. It's important to understand what failure to act looks like. More harmful algal blooms, more fish kills, more beach closures. Storms like Sandy will become more devastating. Falling property values, fewer recreational opportunities, a diminished quality of life. There is reason for optimism, however. First, on Long Island, protecting our environment and particularly protecting water quality has been a bipartisan commitment. Both parties have demonstrated their willingness to invest public dollars to protect water quality and to make the case that these are exactly the kind of investments that government ought to be making. The public, for its part, has consistently and repeatedly expressed their willingness to pay more if those dollars are dedicated to protecting and enhancing water quality. The other reason for optimism is we actually have a plan, science-based, evidence-based, that's been developed over a number of years. It's called the Suffolk County Subwatersheds Wastewater Plan. Now granted, not the greatest sounding title, scientists. But I can tell you that what it lacks in marketing appeal, it makes up for in scientific rigor. This plan, which was years in the making, provides a detailed blueprint for how we fix the water quality crisis in Suffolk County. And its fundamental foundation is the establishment of a countywide wastewater district and a local recurring funding source for water quality infrastructure. I want to thank all of the organizations and all the leaders in our region, our environmental organizations, our business organizations that have been so supportive of this plan, organized labor, the Long Island Federation of Labor and the National Suffolk Building Trades Council, who have championed the cause. Newsday did an editorial on this, a full-throated endorsement of this plan, in which they said, "It is time to take a stand. Neither silence or obstruction are options. We either work to put out a plan and put it into action and reverse what's happening, or continue to watch our waters degrade. We are not going to let that happen." In the coming months, we'll work together with key stakeholders to put the pieces in place to implement this plan and set us on a path of finally solving the water quality crisis. On economic development, the other issue of great opportunity. It's no secret to anyone who's been attending this annual event that we are focused on development around the Ronkonkoma train station in partnership with Supervisor Angie Carpenter in the town of Islip. And please give her a round of applause for her leadership on this issue. There's not a lot of mystery as to why. I'll paraphrase Willie Sutton's famous remark when he was asked why he keeps robbing banks. That's where the money is, he said, of course. Why are we focused on Ronkonkoma? Well, because that's where the opportunity is for our region. First, you already have a major transit-oriented development project happening at Ronkonkoma right now on the town of Brookhaven side under the leadership of Supervisor Romaine. You have a large amount of developable land just south of the Ronkonkoma train station on the Islip side. This train station, a key hub in the Long Island Railroad system, is also next to the region's airport, Long Island MacArthur, owned and operated by the town of Islip. The site also just sits just south of the Long Island Expressway, geographically centered in the middle of the island. And the Ronkonkoma station is on the main line of the railroad, which has had more than $15 billion worth of investment to enhance capacity over the last decade in the double track, third track, and east side access projects. Governor Kathy Hochul has led efforts to help build out an innovation ecosystem in this region through investments in our research institutions and universities. We have this research corridor, and thank you to Kevin Long again. We have this research corridor of great innovation assets that would be the envy of virtually any region in this nation. The next step for Long Island is, can we take that great leap to leverage this research corridor and build upon the other great assets on Long Island to develop Long Island's first commercial life sciences hub? There's no other location on Long Island that gives us a better opportunity to achieve this long-sought dream. And I believe that right now, we have a unique, once-in-a-generation opportunity to achieve this goal, because we are seeing an unprecedented level of cooperation and coordination that, frankly, I have never seen on a project of this significance in my more than now a quarter century in elected office. It's happening with labor and business and academia, local chambers and civics, who understand that we need to create high-paying jobs in this region if we're going to keep taxes down and keep our property values up. And most importantly, we have elected officials at the town, county, state, and federal levels from both parties putting politics aside, because they've made a decision that Long Island's future, our communities, our families, is more important. If you look at locations around the country where they have successfully developed innovation hubs, a necessary prerequisite for that is political alignment, regional cooperation, and coordination. That is what is happening right now on Long Island. And that is why we must seize this moment. The Midway Crossing project would create Long Island's first commercial life sciences hub at Ronkonkoma. And over the last few months, we've seen what can happen when Long Island is on the same page. The Town of Islip Town Board and the Suffolk County Legislature, in a bipartisan fashion, approved a master developer agreement and approved a joint local development corporation to help move the Midway Crossing project forward. Thank you. That is worthy of applause. We also worked with the state delegation as well as labor and business leaders to help create a special infrastructure fund. And as a direct result of political leaders and regional stakeholders working together on this project, the private sector has responded. Northwell Health, New York State's largest employee, and Applied DNA, a homegrown life sciences company, have both now committed to building at Ronkonkoma. Governor Hochul has stated very clearly that she believes in Long Island's future. And that future is as a national leader in the life sciences. I share the governor's optimism about Long Island, and I know so do all of my colleagues. This is a transformative project for our region. We cannot let this moment of opportunity pass. So let us use this year to continue our work together to build a more vibrant future for all of us in this place that we all love and that we call Long Island. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. So finally, Bruce Blakeman couldn't be here in person today due to a family obligation that was scheduled for early this week, but due to airline cancellations, had to be postponed and couldn't be changed. He was here earlier though at 8 o'clock talking to some folks. So he did send this message via video, which we're pleased to share with you. I know that means the other half of the room that's not already leaving will probably leave. That's okay. So I want to just let you know the video is about 5 minutes. I watched it yesterday. So if you got 5 minutes, watch the video. And if you leave, we're going to call you out by name next time. So I'm just kidding. So here's a video for the Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman. And I'm not going to come back up here, so I just want to thank everybody for coming today. It's a great event. I look forward to working with you.
So I just wanted to say to everybody that I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak to you now on this videotape. I want to thank Matt Cohen for his leadership of the Long Island Association, all of the sponsors and members of the Long Island Association, for everything that you do for Long Island and for Nassau County. I'd also like to say congratulations to our leader, Senator Chuck Schumer, for another exciting year that we've had. Senator Schumer is not only a leader, but he's a friend to Nassau County. We appreciate all his efforts on behalf of the residents of Nassau County. I also want to say thank you to my colleague and my partner, Steve Malone. We've got a great partnership here on Long Island, and I look forward to another year of working with Steve, getting things done on a regional basis. We had a great year in Nassau County this past year. When I came into office, we tackled problems immediately, and we got so many things done. We settled labor agreements that hadn't been settled in years. We settled litigation that was swept under the rug for years. We were able to pass a budget that had no tax increase. And at the same time, with inflation rising, we were able to manage that, and at the same time, increase our bond rating with Wall Street. We had an amazing year as far as special events. Joan Jett set a record at Eisenhower Park. 27,000 people came to Eisenhower Park to see Joan Jett. We had a Thanksgiving food drive hosted by Madison Beer, a Nassau County resident who has 33 million followers on Facebook. So we're doing a lot of great things, but we can't stop there. We have to be mindful that we still have issues with our state government with respect to cashless bail and raise the age. And and so many other laws that make the whole state less safe. To that end, I've hired 36 new police officers. I've hired over 50 new prosecutors, and I continue to invest in law enforcement and homeland security for Nassau County. We also had a great year with respect to reaching out to our neighbors when they needed help, especially our neighbors can't get as far away as Erie County and still be in New York State, but we consider them our neighbors in Erie County. We sent up a crew this past week to help them with a devastating blizzard that they had in Erie County and the Buffalo region. We continue to do great things in Nassau County, and my goal this year is to sell Nassau County as a brand. Nassau County is an exciting place to live, to work, to play. We've got so many good things going for us. Let's start off with our world-class beaches, coast to coast. Then we have a park system that's second to none. We have world-class shopping. We have world-class restaurants. We have world-class healthcare facilities, the finest in the world. We have Northville, Newman, Mount Sinai, Catholic Health System, NYU Langone. All of these healthcare facilities are the best in the world. They're located right here in Nassau County. So one of the things that I want to stress is our ability to attract people from around the world to Nassau County for their medical procedures. So medical tourism will be very high on my list of things to do. The hub, we are now at a point where we're hoping in the next couple of weeks that we'll have a plan that we can introduce that's exciting, that will generate revenue for the county, and that will be truly the cornerstone of our economic development in Nassau County. So we have many good things that we can look forward to in this coming year. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you in the Long Island Association and making sure that 2023 is better than 2022. We make it a great year. I want to say to each and every one of you, I hope you have a happy, healthy new year and a prosperous new year. Thank you. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America.